My girlfriend said, "I want you to hurt the way you hurt me." I said, "Then you never knew me at all." She expected begging. Instead, I packed her things, locked my door, and 4 weeks later she was outside my building crying that the pain was supposed to bring me back. Original post: I'm Caleb, 34. My ex was Aubrey, 30. We lived together in a one-bedroom condo in Denver for 8 months, and before that we'd been together a little over 2 years. I work as a physical therapist in a sports rehab clinic. Aubrey worked in social media marketing for a restaurant group. When she wasn't happy, it felt like living beside a storm. Aubrey believed pain was proof. If you were calm during an argument, you didn't care enough. If you set a boundary, you were withholding love. If you didn't chase her when she stormed off, that meant she never mattered. She said all of this openly, like it was wisdom instead of damage. Early on, I mistook intensity for honesty. If she cried, I took it seriously. If she accused me of not caring enough, I doubled my effort. Flowers to her office, missed dinners with friends, long midnight conversations that somehow always ended with me apologizing for things I hadn't actually done. But patience gets ugly when it becomes permission. Aubrey loved saying, "If I don't feel it in my chest, it isn't real." She said it about love, grief, apologies, everything. She didn't want peace. She wanted emotional bruising. She wanted to know she'd left a mark. And if she felt pain, somebody had to reflect it back to her, or she'd escalate until they did. The argument that ended us happened on a Thursday in late March. I had spent most of the afternoon with a high school soccer player who had torn his ACL and was spiraling about losing a scholarship shot. Then, one of our older patients had a blood pressure issue in the gym, so I stayed late while the nurse coordinator handled next steps. By the time I got to my phone, I had 6 texts from Aubrey. "Are you ignoring me on purpose? I guess your patients get more of you than I ever will. Do you even hear how much pain you're causing me?" Then at 614, the one that mattered, "I want you to hurt the way you hurt me. And right after it, maybe then you'll finally learn what love costs." I stared at the screen in the parking lot and felt something go quiet in me. Not anger, clarity. Because that sentence told the whole truth. Aubrey wasn't asking to be understood. She was asking me to bleed the way she felt she was bleeding. She wanted pain to be currency, so I texted one line, "Then you never knew me at all." She called immediately, then again. Then FaceTime, then 3 more texts in under 2 minutes. "So that's it. Caleb, don't be cold right now. If you loved me, you'd come home." I drove home, not fast, not dramatic, just done. She was there before me, sitting on the kitchen counter in one of my hoodies, eyes red, makeup still intact enough for me to know she'd had time to look at herself between crying rounds. She started talking the second I opened the door. Abandonment. Neglect. How I always chose calm over connection. How she was tired of being the only one willing to feel things fully. I set my keys down and said, "Aubrey, you don't want love. You want reaction." She froze. Then came the tears. Then the outrage. Then the pivot where my tone became the issue because my words were landing too cleanly. She said I was cruel for analyzing her instead of comforting her. I said I wasn't analyzing anything. I was listening to the exact words she'd sent me. "I want you to hurt the way you hurt me," I repeated. "That's not a relationship sentence." She said, "You know what I meant." I said, "I do. That's why this is over." Those words changed her face. All that grief performance turned instantly into disbelief. She slid off the counter and said, "You're breaking up with me because I'm in pain." I said, "No, I'm breaking up with you because you keep turning pain into a weapon." She grabbed her tote bag, then stopped near the door like she expected me to run after her. When I didn't, she said, "If you let me leave like this, don't expect me to come back." I said, "That's the point." She slammed the door so hard a framed print in the hall tilted sideways. At 11:07 she texted, "You're really going to sleep while I'm falling apart." At 11:31, "I hope you feel sick tomorrow." At 12:02, "If this is love, then I never want it again." I didn't reply. Friday morning, I emailed my condo association manager, Carla, and asked about emergency rekeying because a former partner no longer had permission to enter the unit. Since the mortgage and HOA were only in my name, it was simple. A locksmith came at 2 p.m. The new keys cost me $145. Then I packed her things. 2 large suitcases, 4 labeled bins, 1 garment bag, 1 cosmetics case. I even wrapped the ceramic mug from Santa Fe she'd once said was the only coffee cup she actually loved. I left everything stacked by the wall with a note. You said you wanted me to understand pain. I understand enough now. Please email to arrange pickup. By Friday night, I had 19 missed calls. I slept 8 straight hours. Update 1: the first flying monkey was her best friend, Sydney. She texted me Saturday morning from a number I didn't know. Hey, she's a disaster. I know you're hurt, but can you please not do this right now? That phrase always tells on people. Not do this. As if the actual event is never the manipulation, only the refusal to keep absorbing it. I replied once. She told me she wanted me to hurt. I ended it. There's nothing to discuss. Sydney sent back a paragraph about trauma and how Aubrey just loved too deeply. I blocked her. At noon, Aubrey emailed me. Subject line: wow. Inside was the rewrite. She hadn't meant literal pain. She had meant emotional understanding. I was weaponizing precision to punish her for expressing vulnerability. She couldn't believe I was throwing away 2 years over one sentence said in distress. One sentence. People who repeat the same behavior for years always reduce it to one sentence when consequences show up. I saved the email and ignored it. Sunday, Carla called me while I was grocery shopping. Aubrey was in the lobby insisting she still lived there and needed to come upstairs for essential belongings. Carla told her I had already filed a resident access update. Aubrey cried and accused me of trying to erase her. Carla told her she could either schedule a pickup with me or leave the property. That night, I rented a 5x10 climate-controlled storage unit because I had already decided I did not want multiple emotional ambushes around a pile of her clothes. First month was free. Second month would be $104. I prepaid 2 months because I wanted every excuse removed. I sent one email. Your belongings are in storage. Address, unit number, and access code below. You've got 60 days before the account becomes your responsibility. Her answer came in less than a minute. This is psychotic. Then another. You're treating me like I died. I wrote back, no, I'm treating this like it ended. The next few days were a mix of silence and public theater. Aubrey posted grayscale selfies with captions about invisible pain. She shared quotes about betrayal. A few mutual friends bit. I answered almost nobody, except my older sister, Hannah. Hannah called Monday night and asked me to tell her exactly what Aubrey had texted. I read it word for word. Hannah was quiet for about 3 seconds, then said, "Yeah, no. She doesn't get to draft you into her suffering because she feels abandoned." That helped. Then Aubrey escalated. Wednesday evening, around 8:40, someone started buzzing my unit repeatedly. I checked the camera feed from my phone. There she was. Hair done, black coat, my old college sweatshirt underneath. She knew the camera was there because she stared straight into it between buzzes. Then she texted, "I know you're home." Then, "I just need 5 minutes." Then, "If you ignore me right now, you are proving everything I said." I didn't answer any of it. She waited almost 20 minutes before sliding a folded page under my door. I read it when I got home. 3 handwritten paragraphs about how pain was the cost of real intimacy, how she'd only ask me to meet her there, how people who avoid emotional pain also avoid real love. I added it to a folder on my laptop labeled March. By Friday, she had moved on to third-party pressure. Her younger brother, Mason, called me while I was charting notes at work. He said Aubrey hadn't been sleeping, hadn't been eating, and couldn't believe I had gone this cold this fast. I said, "Mason, your sister told me she wanted me to hurt like she hurt. That's not a misunderstanding. That's intent." He got quiet, then admitted she'd told the family I abandoned her during a breakdown. I told him the exact sentence she sent. He exhaled like somebody realizing they had been handed the wrong script and said, "Okay." I didn't know she said that. That weekend my clinic director told me I seemed steadier lately, more focused. She asked if I wanted to co-lead a new return to sport program launching in May. It came with a raise. I said yes before she finished the sentence. Update 2-3 days after the promotion conversation, I got a voicemail from a woman claiming to be from Denver General Urgent Care. She said Aubrey had been admitted after an emotional collapse with self-harm concerns and had listed me as an emergency contact. The call almost got me. But the number was a personal cell, not a hospital line, and the wording was too dramatic, too vague, too Aubrey. So I called Denver General myself. No patient by that name. No record of any such call. 30 minutes later, Aubrey texted from an email to text address. Guess you didn't care enough to even check if I was alive. That was the moment concern turned into paperwork. The next morning, I filed a harassment report. I brought screenshots, the handwritten note, the fake urgent care voicemail, the condo camera clips, and a printout of the original text. Officer Ramirez looked through everything and said, "Keep documenting. Do not respond unless it's strictly logistical. If she shows up at your home or job again, call us." He was right. A week later, flowers showed up at the clinic front desk. White lilies. Card attached. Pain is proof that it mattered. My front desk coordinator, Brielle, read the card and said, "That's not romantic. That's a horror trailer." I took a picture, saved the card, and told her if Aubrey ever appeared in person to call security first and me second. 2 days later, she did exactly that. She came in pretending to ask about becoming a new patient. When Brielle recognized her from the photo I had shown the staff, Aubrey smiled and said she just wanted to surprise me and talk like adults. Brielle stalled her long enough for building security to come upstairs. I walked out from the treatment area just in time to hear Aubrey say, "Tell Caleb Payne doesn't disappear because he files a folder about it." I said, "Leave." She looked at me like I just proved her worldview for the 1,000th time. See? He thinks shutting down makes him innocent. Security walked her out. After that, the fake account started. Comments on old Instagram photos. Anonymous emails calling me emotionally sterile. One Venmo request for $287 with the note therapy for damage caused. I declined it and took another screenshot. Then came the part I hated most. She contacted my mother. Mom called me on a Sunday afternoon and asked why a woman I'd broken up with was sending her essays about my fear of feeling pain. Aubrey had framed the breakup as me abandoning her because she asked for emotional honesty. I forwarded Mom the original text and the fake urgent care voicemail transcript. Mom called back 10 minutes later and said, "Absolutely not. That girl is trying to make suffering sound noble." Around this time, I started seeing someone casually. Her name was Tessa. She was a physician assistant Hannah knew from a climbing group. Calm, funny, not intense in the least. We grabbed coffee twice, dinner once, and a Saturday farmer's market where nobody cried, accused, tested, or posted captions about the strawberries. I didn't tell Aubrey, but chaos has its own surveillance system. She found out from a mutual friend and showed up at the market the third weekend. Walked straight toward us in sunglasses and fake composure. She looked at Tessa and said, "Wow, that was fast." I told Aubrey to leave. She ignored me and said to Tessa, "Just so you know, he runs from pain. If you ever need him when things get hard, good luck." Tessa said, "Or maybe he runs from chaos. That seems healthier." Aubrey's face changed instantly. She slapped the coffee out of my hand. That was enough for the market manager to call the police. By the time officers arrived, she was crying and saying she only came because she loved me and couldn't understand how I moved on so quickly. She got a trespass warning for the market and a direct instruction not to contact me again. I filed for a protective order on Monday. Final update: the hearing was 5 weeks after the original breakup. I showed up in a blue button-down with a folder thick enough to make my lawyer, Elise, smile. Efficient, expensive, and unimpressed by people who confuse fixation with romance. Her retainer had been $2,100 after the harassment report turned into a civil filing. Worth every dollar. Aubrey arrived in beige, minimal makeup, small necklace, her reasonable woman costume. Her attorney tried the obvious angle, painful breakup, mental health struggles, misinterpreted efforts at closure, a client acting from hurt, not malice. Then Elise walked the judge through the timeline. The original text, the condo visits, the handwritten note, the storage email, the fake urgent care call, the flowers to my workplace, the clinic appearance, the fake accounts, contacting my mother, the market incident, the trespass warning. Then she ended where it started by handing the judge a printed screenshot of Aubrey's text. "I want you to hurt the way you hurt me." The judge read it once, then again. He asked Aubrey, "Did you send this?" She said yes, but not literally. He asked, "Did you later impersonate or arrange someone to impersonate medical personnel to reach him?" She tried to dodge, said a friend helped because she was desperate, said she had been in unbearable pain. The judge said, "Pain does not give you permission to harass someone." That line sat in the room like a door closing. The temporary order was made permanent for 1 year. No calls, no texts, no indirect contact. Stay away from my condo, my clinic, and my vehicle. The judge also noted the fake urgent care calls specifically as manipulative conduct designed to force contact. Outside the courthouse, Aubrey tried one last time. She said, "I only wanted you to feel what I felt." I said, "That's exactly why I had to leave." Then I walked to my car and that was it. 3 months later, the silence still surprises me sometimes. Not because I miss her, because I hadn't realized how much noise I'd adapted to. The Return to Sport program launched in May and went well enough that I got bumped into a lead role by July. My condo feels like my place again. The storage unit went delinquent after the prepaid period, and after proper notice, the facility handled the remaining boxes without me. Not my drama, not my debt. Tessa and I are taking things slowly. Calm used to feel suspicious after Aubrey. Now it feels valuable. What I learned is that pain is not proof of love. Pain can teach you something, yes. It can reveal what you tolerate and what you keep calling passion because you're scared to name it instability. But pain itself is not noble. Aubrey thought if she hurt enough, the relationship must be real. And if I didn't mirror that hurt back, then I was shallow, cold, emotionally defective. She was wrong. Real love is not measured by how effectively you can wound each other and still stay. It isn't devotion to keep bleeding on schedule because somebody else thinks your calm is insulting. That's not intimacy. That's emotional extortion in poetic language. The saddest part is I don't even think Aubrey was lying when she talked about pain. I think she genuinely believed suffering made love meaningful because that's the only version of attachment she trusted. But understanding that didn't mean I had to live inside it. The day she texted that she wanted me to hurt the way she hurt, she expected panic. She expected another long night where I abandoned myself to prove I cared. Instead, she got the only honest answer I had left. "Then you never knew me at all." And maybe that was true in more ways than one. Because the version of me she understood was the version who absorbed everything quietly and called it love. The version who mistook exhaustion for loyalty. The version who stayed. That man is gone now. If you've ever been with someone who treated pain like proof of love, comment below whether you've faced something similar or what your opinion is. And subscribe, like, and share if you want more stories like this.